everyone, it is I, Bradley Pelster, and today we're going to be working on a 67 Chevelle. There are a lot of things that need to be done to this car, so I'm going to display a list here on the screen. If you need more time to read it, be sure to pause the video. Got that read? Good, now let's get started. For starters, I started off with the steering box. I figured that would be the easiest thing to do. Now, the steering box that we have for this car was a used steering box and was covered in grease. So therefore, I decided to clean it before I install it in the car. And as you can see, with the stuff that I am using, it is not the best stuff to breathe. A lot of guys, whenever they want to degrease parts, they go down to the parts store and buy, gum remover and stuff like that. I've discovered that oven cleaner works pretty well, and you get this stuff at the dollar store. So instead of paying like $3-4 or whatever it is at the parts store for a can of degreaser, yeah, go to the dollar store and save yourself some money. Do be careful with this stuff. This stuff is kind of potent, and it's not good to inhale. I wasn't kidding, was I? Now, after I cleaned the steering box with the toxic oven cleaner that came from the dollar store, it is now time to put the part in the car. By the way, the footage that you're watching right now is us removing the steering box. Unfortunately, I do not have any footage of us installing the replacement. Life is convoluted, and I was on a time crunch on trying to get this done as quick as possible. Before we removed the steering box from the car, we disconnected the tie rods from the knuckles, and we also lowered the sway bar out of the way so it would be easier to get to the steering box. We also replaced the sway bar bushings because they were bad. After the steering box was replaced, the tie rods put back together, and the sway bar put back up, it is now time to replace all 4 ball joints on the car, for they have been on the car since 1967 and they are now bad. After replacing these joints, it feels like I need to replace my own bone joints. To remove the upper ball joints on both sides, you must grind the rivets off. They are riveted to the car instead of bolted. Luckily, the replacements are bolt-ons instead of rivets-on, which makes it much easier to replace in the future if they need to be replaced ever again. When it comes to grinding, I don't have a very good air compressor to power air tools. So in order for me to do this, I had to take 3 air compressors, combine them into one system just to power my air grinder. And even then, it was not enough. After the upper ball joints on both sides were replaced, it is now time to replace the lower ball joints on both sides. The first thing that had to be done was the old ball joints had to be pressed out with a ball joint press. Once the old ball joints were pressed out, we now had to press in the new ball joints using the ball joint press. It is very difficult to press the new ones in, so this is where a 6-foot breaker bar comes in handy. By the way, I do not have the footage of me removing the old ball joints. I cannot find it. I thought I recorded it, but I can't find it anywhere, and for all I know, I may have accidentally deleted it. Mistakes happen. After the ball joints were put in, we decided to tackle the brakes, and we ran into a major problem. We thought we could easily replace them, but it turns out we couldn't. This brake job wasn't just changing out the shoes. We were also going to replace the 2 front cylinders on the brakes, along with the 2 brake lines in between the hard brake lines and the cylinder. So in other words, the rubber hoses. Unfortunately, because of the amount of rust on this car, we were not able to break them free. We tried dousing it in PB Blaster, and even that wouldn't work. Unfortunately, we gave up and took it to the shop to get the brakes repaired. But besides from that, everything else we did ourselves. So we hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if not, don't subscribe. And hopefully we'll be able to entertain you next time. And then you can consider subscribing.